3,570. Just let the sheer mathematical weight of that sink in for a second. It's a massive, relentless figure, ticking upwards day after day through changing seasons, shifting politics, and the non-stop modernization of a sprawling metropolis. That number, 3,570, represents exactly 9 years and 9 months. Literally almost a decade of an unbroken, unyielding, and completely unchanging daily routine carried out right at Shibuya Station in Tokyo. It was a routine driven by an instinct that completely defied logic, weather, and honestly, time itself.
So where does a streak like that even begin? It traces all the way back to January 1924. That's when Hachiko Ueno, who is this highly respected agricultural engineering professor at the University of Tokyo, received a gift. It was a golden brown Akita puppy, only 2 months old, curled tail, incredibly gentle temperament. Professor Ueno named him Hachiko. The name Hachi actually means 8, which signified his birth order in the litter, and ko was just a really common, affectionate suffix people used for dogs back then. Over the next year and 4 months, the two of them fell into this exact, unremarkable, totally everyday rhythm. Every single morning, Hachiko would walk right alongside the distinguished professor to Shibuya Station. Then the dog would head home. But the anchor of this entire story, the center of Hachiko's universe, was always the 4 p.m. train. Without being called, without any formal training whatsoever, Hachiko would trot back to the station every single afternoon. He'd wait right at the ticket gate for Professor Ueno to step off. Commuters, station workers, they all got used to it. They grew to love seeing this daily evening reunion play out on the platform. But that perfect routine shattered on May 21st, 1925. Professor Ueno left for the university just like he always did, petting Hachiko goodbye at the ticket gate. But later that afternoon, right in the middle of delivering a lecture, the 53-year-old professor suffered a fatal cerebral hemorrhage. He died there at the university. He never returned to Shibuya Station. On that very first night, Hachiko took his usual spot at the gate. The 4 p.m. train arrives, the doors open, a sea of passengers pours out, but his master isn't among them, and the dog absolutely refused to leave. He waited through the 5 p.m. train, then the 6 p.m. train, deep into the cold, dark evening. He just sat there, watching the trains come and go, until eventually someone finally recognized him and physically carried the dog back home. That was day 1 of a relentless, decade-long vigil. After Ueno's death, Hachiko was actually given away. He was eventually taken in by Kikuzaburo Kobayashi, who was the Ueno family's former gardener. But, geography didn't matter to Hachiko. Every single afternoon, he left Kobayashi's house and made the walk to Shibuya Station. He'd position himself right on the platform side, scanning the faces of every single passenger stepping off that 4 p.m. train. He did this in the pouring rain, he did it in freezing snow, he even did it while being yelled at and shooed away by irritated station workers or literally kicked by cruel strangers passing through. Every single day. Everything shifted, though, in October 1932. A former student of Professor Ueno, a guy named Hirokichi Saito, who actually happened to be an expert on Akita dogs, spotted Hachiko at the station. He was totally struck by this impossible, illogical dedication. So Saito writes and publishes an article about it in the Asahi Shimbun, which is one of Japan's biggest newspapers. The story of this dog, patiently waiting for a master who had been dead for 7 years, just exploded. It catapulted Hachiko to overnight national fame. People literally started traveling from all over the country just to stand there and watch him wait. He became the living, breathing embodiment of Chugi, this profound Japanese concept of absolute faithfulness and loyalty. His story became so huge that it was actually integrated into school curriculums nationwide to teach kids this exact virtue. And this massive cultural wave culminated on April 21st, 1934. They held a massive public unveiling of a bronze statue of him, sculpted by Teru Ando. And you know what the craziest part is? Sitting right there, right beside this gleaming, heroic bronze likeness of his younger self, was the real Hachiko. Old, arthritic, and still waiting. The vigil finally broke on March 8th, 1935. The 11-year-old dog was found dead on a street near Shibuya Station. The 3,570-day wait was finally over. Now, here is a detail you definitely won't see coming. Decades later, in 2011, researchers at the University of Tokyo ran modern scans on his preserved organs. They confirmed the harsh reality, terminal cancer and a really severe filaria worm infection. But when they looked at his stomach contents, they found a shocking, entirely harmless surprise: multiple, completely intact yakitori skewers.
So it turns out all those station vendors had been slipping him grilled chicken on sticks for years, and he was just swallowing them whole. When the news of his death broke, the reaction was staggering. Front-page news across all of Japan, an actual day of national mourning. His physical remains were preserved, and you can still see them mounted at the National Science Museum today. But the most incredible, poignant detail? Hachiko's ashes were taken to Aoyama Cemetery and buried immediately beside the grave of Professor Ueno. After nearly a decade of waiting, they were finally, physically reunited. But history has a really cruel sense of irony. Just 9 years later, World War II is absolutely raging. The Japanese military is desperate for resources. So, the original bronze statue of Hachiko, the ultimate, most celebrated national symbol of Japanese loyalty in Chugi, was torn down. They literally melted the statue down and used it as scrap metal to fuel the war effort. But a symbol with that much cultural gravity, you can't just erase it. The legend was rebuilt in 1948 when Takeshi Ando, who was actually the son of the original sculptor, was commissioned to create a brand new statue. That piece established what is now the world-famous Hachiko exit at Shibuya Station. And decades later, the story exploded globally, first with a 1987 Japanese film, and then a 2009 Hollywood adaptation starring Richard Gere. Which brings us to the year 2015. To mark the 80th anniversary of Hachiko's passing, the University of Tokyo's Agricultural Department unveiled a new bronze sculpture. But this one is different. It doesn't show a dog waiting alone in the cold. Instead, the bronze captures Hachiko mid-leap. His ears are pinned back, his tail is wagging frantically, and he's jumping right up into the welcoming arms of Professor Ueno, who is dropping his briefcase just to catch him. It's a permanent rendering, frozen in time, of the exact visual the dog waited 3,570 days to see.